everybody, how you doing? Joe here with the Scruffy Fam. So our channel, we want to primarily be about homesteading and urban homesteading, but you know, every once in a while you have to make a little detour. Today we kind of want to talk a little bit about what's going on with our baby Judah. So our last video we talked about how the twins got here. You may notice I'm wearing my mask and I'm not taking it off right now because we're actually in the neonatal intensive care unit at the children's hospital where we live. And you'll see our little guy here. There's Judah, and there's Mama and his sister Kira in the background. No, we didn't talk about why Judah was here. He has what they call a jejunal atresia. What that means is in his intestines, he actually had a blockage or a separation. And now our little guy actually had two. There's different types, and he had what they call a type 2 and a type 3B. Now 3B is actually kind of a rare version. Only 3 to 4% of all, I'm sorry, 8%, correct that, 8% of jejunal atresias are a 3B. So we wanted to talk about that a little bit of what's going on with him because this is actually our second kiddo that's had a jejunal atresia. Our daughter Shiloh also had an atresia, same NICU about 2.5 years ago. A lot of the same nurses, a lot of the same staff, which, you know, has its pluses and its minuses as a parent. Today, Tasha and I just wanted to kind of send some encouragement and answer some of the questions that we had when we first found out about atresias with our daughter. When we first went through this process, we had a really hard time finding information from other parents. We found a lot of stuff about NICUs and how to survive in that, but as far as finding a lot of information about atresias, what they are, what that looks like, how long you're going to be in the NICU, some of the ups and downs that go with that, no one ever had one of those for us. And so this is our second time around, which is also extremely rare. We wanted to talk about how we have been surviving with this. So first thing we want to talk about is what causes, we're going to talk about what causes jejunal atresias. As of now, there's not believed to be a genetic component to a jejunal atresia. They are usually caused by a blood flow issue of some sort in development in utero. Okay, so we left off with what is a jejunal atresia. We had some changes that we had to do here. I am now holding Kira, and Judah is getting some skin time with Mama. So, as we said, jejunal atresia is just a blood flow issue in utero while the baby's growing. Now, it's not supposed to be genetic, but we've got 2 kiddos in a row that have had this, so we talked to genetics and they're still, do you want to answer that one? That was more your wheelhouse.
Well, basically right now they don't know. If there is a component, it's not one that they know what to look for. So they're gonna check some other stuff on him and see if they can find anything else that might point them in a certain direction. And if not, then hopefully by the time our kiddos are looking at having their own kiddos, then we might know more by then.
Yeah, and a lot of people have commented over and over time of how chill we are here at the hospital. We've been through this before, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to reach out and encourage people and answer some of these questions. So one of the other ones was, how long are you in the NICU with an atresia? Now, if you research this on the internet, you're going to hear things everyone from 2, 4, 6, 8 weeks or longer. I think a pretty fair estimate is 4 to 6 weeks based on your kiddo. We spent 6 weeks with Shiloh in the NICU, almost to the day. It was very, very close to that. And I will tell you, around week 5, we started getting really antsy. Really antsy. But you know, this time coming into it, we already started with that expectation that it could be about 6 weeks. We're here with Judah. His may be a little bit longer based on his surgery, but it really is on him and his recovery. So one of the really cool things the first time we were here is they had a family lounge. And in that family lounge, we got to meet other families and talk to them and kind of share the journey. And that helped us the first time. I would say definitely that was one of the highlights of being here. This time around, we don't have that. And that's a very unfortunate thing, because usually when you meet people who are going through a lot of the same circumstances, it makes it easier to deal with. One of the things we did, though, is we joined a couple of groups on social media for NICU parents, preemie parents, twin parents, that type of stuff. So, what do you...
What does it say?
Check baby. Other thing with the NICU you're gonna have to get used to is
Beeping.
beeping.
Lots of beeping.
Lots of beeping.
Sometimes for no reason.
Yeah. That's his temperature probe.
I'm gonna have to pause.
There you go. Okay, so beeping. What do you do when you see all of this crazy stuff for your kiddo? Judah's got what we call a tower of power here, and you're gonna see the back end of it. There's a lot of different things on there. And I would say the first thing you can do is you can just talk to your nurses. That's what they're here for, is to answer those questions and tell you what is getting put into my baby. Right now, Judah's got what they call a PICC line. I don't know what that stands for. Do you know what that stands for?
No.
I don't know what it stands for. Smarter people will know what that stands for. What it basically is a central line that he's getting nourishment from. His is in his head. They can be anywhere from the top of the head, hands, feet. It kind of depends on what's easiest for them to get for the baby. For Judah, it was his head. They tried in his hands and his feet, but it just wasn't working. So top of his head, and incidentally, that's where Shiloh had hers. So if you see that in the videos, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going into his head? That's his central line that he's receiving his nourishment from. He's also got an IV, and he right now also has an epidural. So he's got a lot of stuff going on in his little body, but he had major surgery. He had his atresia. Now, talking a little bit more about what exactly is an atresia, it's a blockage or a separation. So a nice way of saying that the intestines either were blocked or popped.
Ew.
Yes, ew. So our daughter's actually, her intestines ruptured is what happened. It spiderwebbed on one end and twisted up into a knot on the other. And they took it out, and it was about 17 centimeters worth of intestine that was removed. For a little kiddo, that is a lot. And it took her a while to recover from that. Why are you kicking me? And then for Judah, he only had about 4 centimeters removed, but his is sewn in 2 places. And so that, we're not quite sure how long that's going to take him. The big thing we're looking for is poop. Most people complain about poopy diapers. Don't complain about poopy diapers, people. Trust me. If your kiddo can't poop, that's a big deal. Why are we so chill? We were not chill the first time. It took us a few weeks to calm down, but we found out at the 20-week ultrasound that something was going on. That gave us a lot of time to prepare and research things, like a lot. And we kind of came to the point where we know that there's not a lot we can do about it. There's no vitamins or medicines or procedures or anything in utero to do anything about it. And when they're born, unfortunately, you can't really know the atresias until after they have surgery, when they lay everything out on the table. So really, there's not a lot you can get worked up about until they're born and they have the surgery. Now, Shiloh, she went to the Children's Hospital in surgery right away. They picked her up at the hospital she was born at, transported her to the Children's Hospital, and she was the very first surgery the next morning. For Judah, he wasn't. He stayed overnight in the hospital he was born in. He stayed in their NICU. He was transferred the next day, and it was even a day after that that he ended up having surgery. So, I mean, it really depends on how distressed your baby is when they come out. So when Judah and Kira were born, we went up to the NICU. It wasn't our first time in the NICU. So when they started trying to explain stuff and tell us everything, we said, okay, do your thing. We trust you guys. Just make sure baby's taken care of. When Judah got transferred over to the children's hospital, we got here, and one of the benefits of already being here about two and a half years ago was there's a lot of the same nurses and staff that were here before. So, hi, sorry to see you again, but we're here and we know you guys can take care of it. And so that is really the biggest reasons we've been here before. We've done it. We've seen the back end. There's not a road without an end in sight in front of us. And I know for NICU parents, that's one of the hardest things, is not having that end date set for you. And you really can't do that in the NICU most times. You get that window, and I know sometimes that can be really hard. But I can tell you from parents who've survived the NICU once before, you can do it. You really can. And the day you get to take your baby home is like one of the best feelings you can ever have. And I'll tell you, we greatly admire and thank all the staff that is here. And that's another reason. They took care of our baby before, so we know they're going to do it again.
Well, and one of the things that definitely helped as far as like being chill and not just panicking, at least for me, I'm a researcher. So as soon as we found out kind of what they were thinking at the anatomy scan, I went into like total research mode. And so it really helped to have kind of learned even some of the ins and outs of what we were looking at, so that as the nurses and the doctors were explaining things, I like knew some of the terminology that they were using, and that definitely helped to calm a lot of those nerves, because I could kind of follow what was going on as opposed to feeling, completely like I was, drowning in all the waves. So that was one of the things that I did to help kind of get through all of the craziness, especially when we didn't know yet what both of them had. Because, they find the symptoms in the ultrasound, but you don't really know how bad it is until after your baby gets here and they're in surgery. And so there's a lot of unknowns, and that was probably the number one way that I dealt with having all those unknowns, was at least knowing kind of what the playing field looked like.
Another question we get asked by a lot of people who we're close to is, how much time do you spend in the NICU, and are you staying the night? So that's an interesting question. So the first time, I stayed the first night that Shiloh was in the NICU because she was having surgery so early in the morning. This is not an operation or thing that their life is threatened or in danger. There are kiddos here who that is the case. That was not the case with our kiddos, and there's only so many beds in their overnight rooms, and you could sleep in their room. If you've ever been in a hospital room where they come in every hour to check things, you're not going to sleep, okay? I know a lot of parents that do stay in the NICU with their babies. I guess it depends on how far away you live as well. If you live over an hour away, then you're either going to want to stay in the Ronald McDonald House or in the NICU. I'd recommend staying at the Ronald McDonald House before you stay in the NICU. Just be aware of what you're getting yourself into there. We did not stay the night, except for that first night I stayed. Since then, we haven't. Because we trust the nurses and the doctors that are here taking care of our kiddos. That's what their job is. And we also wanted to leave that space for other parents. This time around, we are definitely not spending the night. We're very lucky that Tasha's mom is in town right now, but that's not forever. It's only a couple more days. And we still have other kiddos at home. And especially with COVID, they can't come to the hospital. So we can't spend from dusk to dawn here at the hospital. It's not feasible for us. With Judah right now, one of the things we're trying to do is get here as early in the morning as we can. We have rounds every morning, and I'll tell you what, if you're a NICU parent, that's when you get your questions answered. You talk to all the doctors. If there's one time that you can focus on being here, I'd highly recommend that it's rounds. If you can't be here for rounds in the morning, then I would say shift change at night or shift change in the morning, depending on how your nurses do it, because that's where you're going to get the second amount of information that you would get. Those are kind of the prime times, but rounds is the priority for all the information dump that you're going to get about your kiddo. So for Judah, we're trying to spend a couple hours here every day and then go back home and spend the rest of the day and the night with our other kiddos that are at home. We've got 3 other kids at home. We got a teenager and 2 toddlers, just coming out of toddlers, and a toddler at home that need us just as much as Judah does. So that's the time thing, I think, is one of the hardest for parents to balance. For us, we have another unique circumstance. We have twins. So we've got 1 baby at home and 1 baby in the hospital. It's definitely weird. But even in this situation, all the newborn stuff that we've got to do with Kira is happening with Judah, but the staff here is taking care of it. And, well, hi. I want to encourage you not to have guilt.
That's hard.
It's hard. It's very, very hard. Parent guilt is a thing, okay? But this is such a small blip in their life that really on the back end, you'll remember, oh yeah, we were in the NICU, but you're not going to agonize over every day of did I spend 4 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, 1 hour, 20 minutes. I mean, I know it sucks and it's hard. Okay. So, what else? Oh, ask questions. If you have questions, ask. The nurses and doctors will be more than happy to answer your questions. I would say that with Shiloh, we asked a ton of questions. And even this time with Judah, we asked the important questions. Some of those important questions are, what's the treatment plan? What are your expectations for pain management? Okay, like we said. And beeping. Beeping's going to happen a lot, and you're just going to have to get used to that. But like we were saying, ask questions, right? Ask the questions about treatment plans, what's next, what are the big milestones you're looking for. Because if you come into this blind and you don't know the questions, that can also add to anxiety and worry because you're not sure what's going on. So one of the things we do is, since we do have a newborn at home, we have to be up at all weird hours of the night for feedings as well. And so we call and we talk to the night nurse and just get an update on how Judah's doing. And then we try to get here for rounds in the morning. Now, again, have other kiddos at home. They've got appointments. They've got things that they've got to do. So prioritizing when you're going to get is fine. But when you get to the NICU, if you miss rounds, it's pretty simple. Just ask to talk to someone and get an update. And they'll usually send in the neonatologist or the nurse, and they'll come in and update you on everything on your kiddo. Let's see. What else did we want to encourage people with?
So the other thing I would say is that if you're the journaling type, we actually did that when our daughter was in the NICU. We got a little NICU specific journal, and every single night we went in and just kind of wrote down a little bit of a blurb about how the day went, whether she gained any weight, if there was any big things that happened, and just kind of like writing it to her as like a way for her to know how her beginning went when she's older. But also just like, can't wait until you can come home, and like some of the things that we were excited about doing with her. And that really kind of just helped keep it in perspective that the 6 weeks we were here felt like it could have been 6 months. It does, in our case, we were mostly just sitting waiting for her to get bigger, really. And so in that, it helps kind of keep a perspective on what's coming and the fact that we still have the whole rest of her life ahead of us. And that really kind of helped get through a lot of that anxiety and, you know, just like this is never going to end kind of feeling. So even if you just jot down, you know, like the big things that happen, even if it's not like an every single day play-by-play kind of thing, I still think that would be a really helpful thing to kind of share the story with them later.
Yeah, I agree. And there's a lot of really touching things that we wrote in there for her. With Judah, he's getting a lot of the video and phone stuff, and hence the YouTube. Do you think we're going to go back and we will update a journal and keep a journal for him as well? It's a little...
It's harder when you have twins.
It is much harder when you have twins.
We have a newborn at home.
And, you know, if we don't do that, we don't do it. It's not the end of the world. So we just wanted to do this video to kind of answer some questions and give some thoughts. There's enough people who've told us we're like some of the most chill parents they've seen in the NICU. A big reason for that is our faith. Honestly, you know, we believe that God's got this. We're big believers in the Holy Spirit being present and healing. We believe in a God that can do miracles, and just these little babies themselves are miracles. So we did a video much earlier in our series, if you want to scroll back and look, where we talk about Levi and how he's a miracle baby, and every kiddo after him is as well. We weren't supposed to be able to have kids, and 3 and 4 were just born. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you so much for all of your love and care and support. Thank you for the well wishes that you guys have given us with these little guys coming along. We will get back to the homestead here shortly. I do have some stuff for you to show what happens when you disappear from your garden for a couple of days while you're in the hospital and you've got chipmunks. Chipmunks. All right, guys. Thank you so much again. You can follow along with our daily lives and see all the craziness going on at our little Scruffy family on Instagram @the Scruffy Fam and @the Scruffy Mama. Again, thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time.